may now speak to any of the organizers or panelists on the line. When you are ready to begin the presentation, press the Start Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin your broadcast. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Abhishek Chaudhary from CI Digital Services team. Please type in a yes in the chat box to confirm if I am audible. Thank you. Thanks, Sanskriti, for confirming. Thanks, Mohsin, for confirming.
Hi, Abhishek.
Hi, Ashish. We can hear you.
Okay. Abhishek, just wanted a quick check कि वो questions जो भी कोई questions डालेगा तो I can see here ना in my panel.
You can see that.
Each and every
I
question.
would request if anybody can type in some test question, Sanskriti or Mohsin, so that Ashish will confirm you if he can see the questions.
संस्कृति नौसी
हाँ देखो क्वेश्चन आया है, टेस्ट क्वेश्चन। क्वेश्चन के राइट साइड में क्रॉस के बगल में देखो स्क्वायर बॉक्स होगा। आशीष, कैन यू सी दैट?
yes
उसको
yeah
दबाओगे तो इट विल बी एडिशनल विंडो विच इज गोइंग टू बी ओपन एंड यू विल बी एबल टू सी ऑल द questions. So can you see the test questions of Nitin, Jayant and Sanskriti?
yeah I can see Machine, then Sanskriti, yes.
Hmm.
Sanskriti again, hi Ashish, will be in chat box.
Yeah,
Nitin Gupta, can we ask him in the mid of webinar?
right.
James, how long the impact last?
हाँ
Okay.
ठीक है, these are the test questions. So now I'm sure that you'll be able to see the similar questions during the session. So we'll wait for the time to start the session now. You can mute yourself till then.
अच्छा अभिषेक, one last thing.
बोलो।
All the except the speakers हम लोग बोल नहीं सकते ना, मैं सिर्फ क्वेश्चंस को कॉपी करके मॉडरेटर को देता रहूंगा, बाकी मैं बीच में कोई बोल नहीं सकता ना, उसे स्पीकर्स का अलाउ होता ना।
नहीं ऐसा नहीं है। Either ways, if you would like to communicate anything SOS basis, you can do it.
हाँ ओके ठीक।
So can you hear me?
Okay, we have a question from Ashwin. Are we
Yeah,
supposed
Kavita,
to
I
put
can
the
hear you.
questions on WhatsApp?
As there's a background disturbance, one can hear voices.
आशीष
should
म्यूट
just,
कर लो अपने आप को
mute
प्लीज।
themselves or
अच्छा ओके ओके
the background से disturbance हो सकती है. Kindly put it on mute and then unmute it when it's necessary to speak. I think we have about 10 minutes to go, right?
ma'am,
Yeah.
is the banner okay with the logos and background?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is okay.
Okay.
Wait a second. Hmm. Yeah, the backdrop is looking absolutely fine.
Okay.
Ashish, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Kavita, I can hear you.
I just unmuted, so I can't say I was not able to say that time. I can hear you.
Acha, because I get the feeling that I'm getting disconnected.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I
Maybe
just got a
network
message saying that there might be network problems.
issue. Okay, okay.
Anyway, it's okay. I guess I don't.
Okay, but I will be copying the question and then pasting to that group.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Ashish, please mute yourself.
Yeah, I'm muted. Saraswati, you can check with Mr. Bernhard that whether he's online on WhatsApp.
Abhishek, we have a message from one of the speakers, Miss Julia Kaliz. I think she's on, she's joined in. Miss Kaliz, are you there? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm perfect.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm perfect.
Sunil Mathur here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Mathur.
Hello?
Steinruecke.
Yes, hello, I can hear you.
Hi, Bernhard, Sunil.
Okay.
Hi, Sunil, but I'm trying to share my webcam, but somehow it's not coming. It's moving and moving and moving. Earlier it worked.
I'm not sharing the webcam. I'm without it so that I save network.
Okay, then I can also switch it off. Just 1 second. Okay, let me just see. Now I can see Julia. That's good. Hello. Okay. So, Sunil, can you still hear me?
Loud and clear, Bernhard.
Oh,
very
perfect,
clearly.
Perfect. So I've also switched off my camera because it was not coming up anyway. But I presume since I'm the moderator, at least at the beginning, I'm supposed to have the camera on. And so therefore, I have to see what I'm going to do now. Kavita, can you hear us? Nope. Okay, let's see. So Julia, I can see you, but we cannot hear you. Can you say something, please?
Yes. Sorry, I switched off the microphone.
Great. Now I can hear you. And Bidisha, can you also say something, please? I can see you, but I couldn't hear you, please.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Okay, perfect.
Hello,
now
everyone.
We can also...
I hope you can hear me.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Then the only one who is missing is Caroline King. I don't know whether she has joined in already from SAP, but maybe, I don't know whether she will join in later, only that because her slot is only at 1:23. So I'm not sure whether she is supposed to join in earlier or what the organizers have recommended. So therefore, I'm not sure what is, is Ashish hearing us?
Yeah, Mr. Bernhard.
Okay, fine. So since I'm not sure whether Kavita can hear us, but at least you can hear us, as per the time, we would have to start now.
Yes.
So are we waiting for Dr. King or not?
I think we should start and wait when she joins. Then she can join the panel. We can start now.
Fine. So now I'm going to try to switch on my camera as long as I'm speaking, because I think that was the purpose. But if it's not switching on, because that's what it didn't do 2 minutes ago, then I will just speak. Is that okay?
Yes. In fact, I have switched mine off because
Yes,
that's what
I mean,
the network recommends.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Only when you're talking, it's supposed to be on. But because of some reason, which I cannot tell you why, my web camera is not working to share. So I don't know. In the test drive, it worked. I don't know what happened in between. But I think we can't help it. So I switch it off. And so I just keep on talking.
Bernhard, none of us will use the camera because that ensures continuity at least.
Fine. So then we'll do it like this. Great. So warm welcome to the BDI CII Indo-German Chamber of Commerce COVID-19 impact on the German and Indian economies and the way forward. Now today in India we have the second week over of the lockdown, and in Germany also we have a lockdown which is going to continue over Easter, but it's in a slightly different way. And today in this seminar we want to compare the situations. For that we have experts. We have with us Bidisha Ganguly. She is the chief economist of CII. Then we have with us Ms. Julia Kallis. She is a senior management in the Department for Strategy Planning and Coordination at the German Federation of Industries, BDI. And then we have Sunil Mathur, the MD and CEO of Siemens in India. And later, Caroline King, the Director Governance of SAP, will join us. With these experts, we want to reflect on the situation in India and in Germany. And without further ado, I would like to hand over to Mrs. Ganguly. I have a long CV with me, but I don't think I need to introduce her in all these details. She's been with CII for a few years now. She has a lot of experience earlier with the BRICS office in Delhi and with other institutions, and she is a well-known economist in the CII world. And now, Ms. Ganguly, I give you 6 minutes as per the schedule given by CII. Your remarks on COVID-19 impact on the Indian economy, please.
Thank you so much. And good afternoon from India. Probably still morning in your part of the world. So let me just start with when the COVID impact first started. This was actually started from February itself. And the first impact was felt in India through our linkages with the global economy, primarily China. And there was a huge shortage of raw materials that was felt by industry across sectors such as chemicals, textiles, auto components, electrical machinery and equipment. Many of the raw materials in these sectors are imported from China. So India has a huge dependence on China and other countries for imports. So the first impact came in from there. Then the virus moved to the Western world. And then the problem also came in through our exports. So our key export markets such as the US, UK and the EU were affected by this coronavirus, and therefore we could not, our exports were hit. To that extent, that was the second impact that came on the economy. And finally, when the virus came to India and the government had to take serious measures, which is happening now, and the lockdown was announced from March 25th, then all economic activity or most economic activity has been shut. And that has, of course, serious consequences on the economy. But of course, the health of the economy, health of the people will have to be protected. So looking at the sectors, manufacturing is almost entirely shut down. Services are partly functional, especially those who can work from home. For example, we in CII, we are all working from home, and all meetings are on, lot of work is on. But I would think that in critical sectors, even the financial sector, work is only partially going on, because a lot of the functions would require people to actually come to the office, the trading and the dealing, etc. Other sectors, essential services, goods and services, is exempted by the government from the lockdown. So therefore, the sectors such as agriculture and food processing, and not just food, but also some other essentials like the fast-moving consumer goods, the hand washing and all those products are supposed to be available, though the availability varies from state to state. But technically these are available, and therefore that part of the economy is still running. But large parts are under lockdown, and our estimate is that about 1/3 of the economy is operating. The rest is shut down. And now going forward, there are several scenarios. One is that the base case where the lockdown will be lifted after some time. The plan is that there will be a graded lift of the lockdown. Officially, 14th, the lockdown ends. Now, nobody expects all the restrictions to go away after that, but maybe some of them will go away. So the optimistic case would be to say that by the second half of 2020, there will be a lot of pent-up demand which will come back, and there'll be a big increase in growth. But the more realistic scenario, I think, is that there will be only a gradual recovery from the current very severe stress that businesses are facing. The government is doing all it can. It has already announced a package, both from the Finance Ministry and as well as from the Monetary Authority, the Reserve Bank of India, where interest rates have been slashed. There's a moratorium on loan repayment. But in addition, we expect further measures to be announced going ahead. And from the fiscal side, there are two kinds of things that are expected. One is to support the lower income households who really have suffered the most, the marginalized people in this, because their livelihoods have suddenly been taken away. And two, we expect some support for businesses who are not able to repay loans, not able to pay interest, not even able to pay their wages. So, and then a lot of the regulatory requirements which are faced by businesses, they need to be pushed back, the deadlines for them. And that is being done on a regular basis. But exactly how and when the recovery will take place is still very difficult to say, especially since the virus is still increasing in its spread in India. I think my time ends there. I could take questions, but these are my introductory remarks. Thank you.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Bernhard, we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, so Mr. Strack from BDI, I understand, wanted to say hello. Mr. Strack? No, he seems not to be online. Then, as per our schedule now, Ms. Julia Kallis from BDI is supposed to give her input. Ms. Kallis, please. Hello. So strange. She was there earlier.
I think now can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yes. Hello.
Perfect. Thank you, Bernhard. So,
where is Mr. Strack there with you? Because I understand he also wanted to briefly say something.
He's not with me. Actually, we are all working in the home offices.
Okay, fine. Okay, then he has to see how he can join us. Doesn't matter. So then, please, Ms. Kallis, the floor is yours.
Thank you a lot. So actually, I would like to highlight on 3 points. First of all, on the economic measures that have been taken by the German government to support the liquidity of our companies. Then I would show you some recent research institutional results that just came out this morning. And I also would like to give you our BDI's perspective on the next steps. So actually in Germany, public life is pretty restricted since the Chancellor's TV address on 18th March. So there is a huge state ban on a large number of economic activities. And we assume that at least until the end of the Easter holidays, public life will be pretty much be restricted anymore. So there's no industry lockdown in Germany, but our member associations pretty much feel the consequences. So we are very happy that the German government took a lot of measures the last 2 weeks. And in total, these measures required a net borrowing of 156 billion euros. So we can separate these measures into 4 categories. So there are liquidity aids for small companies that support self-employed persons and also people with up to 10 employees. So they can receive cash between 9,000 and 15,000 euros immediately. Then they put into place a huge economic stabilization fund for larger companies. So they need to have at least a 50 million euro turnover and 250 employees. And all this whole package is having a volume of 600 billion euros. And this week there is a new fast credit in the market, which supports our small and medium-sized companies, and they are able to reach a support of maximum 800,000 euros. And last but not least, there is also an add of 2 billion euros for startups. So from BDI perspective, we really welcome all the measures that have been taken into place in the last 2 to 3 weeks. At 10 a.m. this morning, the spring report of the leading economic research institutes will be published. And actually, the numbers are not looking that well. So it's expected that the GDP will fall around to -4 until -6% this year. Also, other institutes confirm this, but of course, these preliminary expectations depends on how long the shutdown on public life will last in Germany. And last but not least, we at BDI, we are looking forward that the hard restrictions will be relieved soon. What we are doing is we started working on a long-running recovery program. Even without the crisis, we would have needed measures to stimulate growth. So for us, it's important that we get investments into a modern transport system, in digital infrastructure, and climate protection. But what we really need to work on is now to stimulate for the private investment, and which also includes to modernize a corporate tax system. So this is a pretty short overview about the measures that are in place at the moment, and what are we working on.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Kallis, and I understand now Mr. Strack is available. Mr. Strack, please.
Bernhard, Steinruecke. Just a quick note. I want to thank CRI for initiating and organizing this exchange. We are in very difficult times, and keeping the close contact among well-established partnerships, I think, is very important for us. Bernhard, Steinruecke, a special thanks to you. IGCC is a very important player for us in BDI when it comes to Indo-German business relations. So I'm very happy that we are all here together in this format. Caroline King, she wrote a mail that she has problems in dialing in with the software, so she's still trying. She would be available. And Bernhard, I give back to you to continue with the program. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Strack. I think Caroline King also has made it now. And now we, as per our schedule, come to Sunil Mathur. Mr. Mathur is not only the MD and CEO of Siemens in India, but he's also past president of Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, and he's a member of the Central Committee of CII, and he is the chairman of the Western region of CII. So he is basically here in three functions: IGCC, CII, and Siemens. We couldn't have had a better person. And now he's giving us the industry perspective for India. Please, Sunil.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone, and good morning to those in Germany. I think a lot has been said, both from a German perspective in terms of the way the economy is impacted in Germany, but I think from an Indian perspective as well, there is a serious impact, and there will be a serious impact on industry in the days to come. I'd like to touch basically three issues that Indian industry will have to be grappling with in the next couple of weeks and months. The first is cash liquidity. I think with the slowdown that has happened, or the lockdown that has happened, and the fact that there will be a phased ramp up over the next couple of weeks, businesses are closed, manufacturing is down, sales activities are down, consumption is down, and this puts a lot of strain on the banking system, in particular the suppliers, customers, and industry in general, particularly the small and medium enterprises, in terms of cash and their liquidity. They've got working capital requirements that they've got to take care of. They've got issues of investments that are partly done in the process, etc. So I think that is going to be one big concern. The second is, of course, the micro and small and medium enterprises. This is a huge number in the country. It's really the backbone of industry in the country, and they are the ones that are probably most affected at this time. Cash and liquidity is one critical factor, because a lot of them are working on working capital cycles of 30 to 45 days. So a shutdown of almost 3 or 4 weeks is really hurting them. But also there are issues of fixed costs, and how do they deal with those in an environment where the demand is not really there. So that is the next challenge that needs to be addressed. And finally, it is a huge issue that has come to light and was actually below the surface. But in the last week or two, the issue of migrant and casual workers has raised its head. And we realize how real an issue this is in the country, and how do we deal as industry and as society with this huge workforce out there, which is not organized, but needs the support, particularly at this point in time, to see over the next couple of months, probably years. So I think these are the three critical issues that need to be addressed. I'm confident the government will come out with some kind of a stimulus package, and I'm hoping it will address a lot of these issues and many more. But I think for German companies in India, indeed for companies, all companies in India that are exporting in particular, these companies are often a part of a global supply chain. And this is where, with the lockdown over here, the global supply chain does.
Hello, Sunil, I can't hear you. Hello? Ashish?
Yes, Mr.
I
Steinruecke,
can
it seems.
It could be the network might have gone from his end.
Okay.
I think it's
Because I cannot hear Mr. Mathur. Can you still hear him?
No, we can't.
Okay. So then it's a problem on his side. Can you send him a message or contact him, please?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Kavita, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you again. Yes, perfect. Now you're back.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know where I went off.
The government support. The government support, you were saying you're confident that the government will manage the situation.
So I'm sure that the government is looking at a stimulus to address all these issues. However, the critical factor over here is also companies that are part of a global supply chain. In other words, a host of Indian companies, large, medium, and small, that are actually exporting outside the country and are part of a global supply chain. This is where it really starts becoming serious, because you are part of a global supply chain. Your revival is essential and you need to get your manufacturing up to speed. But on the other hand, there is the issue of safety of the workforce. So establishing this fine balance is what the government is going to be looking at in the next couple of days, and as part of their announcement for ramping down the lockdown in a phased manner. So I'll stop there, Bernhard, for the time being.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sunil. Now we come to Dr. King from SAP. Caroline, can you hear us?
I hear you fine.
Perfect. The floor is yours, please. Yes.
Thank you. I think from an SAP perspective, perhaps we are in a special situation. Of course, like all, we're very concerned about the impact of the pandemic on customers, on our employees, on the economy. But I know that there has been a lot of conversation around decoupling and shifting supply chains. And I think for the digital sector, we are still very much part of the global supply chain. It's interesting also for me to hear this previous speaker's comments about India also being part of this global supply chain. I think for us, it will be about defending and keeping this on track. In the short term, we have been very busy, I will say globally, also in India, with a series of offerings that we have made via our new acquisitions in Qualtrics with regard to sentiment analysis and citizen surveys, or with regard to Ariba and opening up supply chain software so that companies can look for gaps that they need to fill in their supply chains in this breakdown in this crisis time. So we have put together a package of various solutions we've offered to governments and to companies, and also my colleagues have been very busy in India doing the same thing. So for us in the short term, it's been a busy time. We are also proud that we were able to offer the German Foreign Ministry a program to repatriate German citizens traveling abroad, and have been discussing this also with other governments around the globe. We expect, I would say, that digitalization will take will come to upper mind for many governments now, and that there will be a lot of interest in at least quick fixes. But we also expect that there will be a downturn in the demand in terms of bigger infrastructure projects. We've seen this in 2008, 2009. Typically, when the economies take a downturn, those projects also fall off the agenda. So I have a little bit of background noise. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes, absolutely.
Perhaps we should also, I'd like to make one more comment on the question also of supply chains, because we've had the question a number of times whether we see we see supply chains coming back to Germany or coming back to Europe and coming out of Asia. Our CTO Jürgen Müller gave an interview on this recently. We're not doing this. We don't plan on doing this. We see the customers of the future clearly in Asia, and India very much a part of that. And we see it would be short-sighted to pull production out of Asia. It certainly makes sense to see these supply chains become less brittle, to organize backups, to create multiple tracks. This is generally speaking what the Corona crisis is teaching industry. But we will continue to manage our production globally. And as you all know on the call, I don't think I need to revisit the facts about our presence in India. And I invite, when I'm finished with my comments, Klaas Neumann to say anything particular about our impact, or the impact for SAP or the IT sector. Klaas, if you have anything you would like to add when I'm finished, please go ahead. But generally speaking, our perspective is global and will remain so. Our concern is not so much about the decoupling and regionalization of supply chain. It is more about the protectionism that this crisis will tend to amplify. And also, we see this happening. In India, we've been observing this for a longer time, and we're concerned primarily about trends towards import substitution, about increasing demands on data localization. Those are the problems that we face in growth markets, and we see this increasing. And we're very concerned about this because the free flow of data across borders is essential for the functioning of these global supply chains and the growth of the IT market globally. So governments that respond in a national sixth sense really create a disruption to business, increase their own costs, create security risks, and undermine their own economic growth. And while we understand it, the motivation in terms of data security, data protection, which we also support, and we see that there are other solutions to the question of digital sovereignty that need to be pursued. And that's the concern that we have, more so than the sifting of supply chains, which this crisis may incur in some particular sectors, but less so, we say, on the digital side. So we think this model for IT development made in Germany, sold in Asia, that's a historical model and not relevant for us. For us, it's all about co-innovation. And that's the last point I would like to make. We made a suggestion recently during the Indo-German consultations for a proposal for a digital working group managed by CII and APA between India and Germany to focus on a few key sectors where we see co-innovation between India and Germany is very important. Digital manufacturing, Industry 4.0, machine learning are the keywords for one of these focus areas that we see. We certainly also think that there's great potential for cooperation in terms of smart infrastructure and traffic systems, traffic management in particular, or smart energy. We also are interested in the platform economy and working with Indian companies on hyperscaling and digital platforms to push this sector forward. And finally, and certainly last but not least, on AI, on artificial intelligence, as well as in cybersecurity. So it's a very important initiative from our side. We're happy to see that it's moving forward. We've made some nominations for German companies to join, and we're very much looking forward to some Indian companies joining this, and a first virtual meeting also of this working group. The crisis may last longer than we would like, and we would like to keep moving with the business agenda because we see this as very important. So that's my last bid and petita that we keep focus on this idea and move toward a first working group meeting. And
okay.
Let me invite Klaas if he wants to say anything on behalf of the IT sector in India and our experiences there. He's certainly much more has the expertise to do so. Thank you very much, Mr. Steinruecke.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the floor is yours.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me because
yes.
I had a little connectivity issue in the moment Caroline was handing over. Yeah, just to add to this, because I'm connecting here from China, to give everybody also the view that the crisis can also come to an end. I'm sitting here in the office in China, and we are basically back to work and have come to a normal, I would say, work environment again. Although, of course, and Sunil has mentioned it, the interconnectivity, the interconnectivity of the global economy, of course, also China. The German Chamber here has made a survey recently where only 20% of German invested companies that expect business to resume to normal distance, right? And the vast majority only expect this to be basically at the end of the year. That being said, we also believe that indeed we will see, as a result of this crisis, an enormous push towards more cloud-enabled digitalization, many more services, because this has certainly helped also China come out relatively quickly from this crisis. And to get out and to resume into normal work is also not going have seen here. It's a step-by-step approach, new digital solutions like the, I may just maybe show this here, like the newly defined, which we are all using. This is very, very important nowadays, right? Because I have a status screen in this app. It means I'm allowed to move around in Shanghai, and this status will change immediately back to yellow the moment I have been close to a corona patient, or if I come from an area where there is multiple new cases and so on. So with this modern technology combined with a certain discipline, of course, can bring the situation to some extent control. But that being said, I'm also well aware that not every obviously works everywhere. So, and we certainly try to use of this. I mean, also inside our offices, if you're not green, you cannot come to the office. That's very clear. That's also a rule here. But with that, I would definitely like to get back and leave more room for discussion, and certainly happy to also answer any questions, if any. Thank you.
Yeah, Klaas, thank you very much. We are already in the middle of the opportunity to discuss on greater collaboration and coping strategies at this time of crisis and opportunities in the long term. You put on the table the discussion on digitalization and artificial intelligence as per the intergovernmental consultations. But maybe I would like to ask Sunil, as representative of Siemens, where do you see opportunities for collaboration between Germany and India when we get out of this crisis? Sunil, please.
Well, I think there are a huge amount of opportunities there, and one of the major ones has already been touched on by the earlier speakers, and that is digitalization. India is looking very clearly at smart manufacturing, at Industry 4.0 through its Make in India program. If India needs to be competitive, and we will have to be competitive not only within the country but also internationally, digitalization is going to be a very key ingredient of that. And I think this is something where India can collaborate very closely with the German Industry 4.0 platform, and CII is actually doing that. CII has created an India Industry 4.0 platform in collaboration with the German Industry 4.0 platform to really get best practices out of what is happening in Germany and see how we can adapt and adopt them here in the country. So I think digitalization will be a major area. I mentioned in my earlier talk that small and medium enterprises are going to be under strain. And I think the way Germany has really dealt with the Mittelstand, the small and medium enterprises in Germany, is something that India can really, and Indian industry, small and medium industry, can really learn from as well. There are currently over, I think it is close to 2,000 small and medium enterprises that are global champions. And these are small and medium family run organizations, companies that employ less than 500 people, but are global champions in that they have got either number 1, 2, or 3 market share globally. And I think this is something that we can learn from as well, primarily because their advantage there has been, and their secret recipe has been, and indeed they've been called the hidden champions of the German economy. They've got an ecosystem of academia, of research institutes, of training, dual vocational educational training, that all comes together to support the small and medium enterprises in really being at the cutting edge in innovation, and then using the trainees from the dual vocational program as part of their workforce. So I think this is something that we can also learn from, and this is something that small and medium enterprises in India will need to also start looking at, where we bring academia, research, and the consulting, Industry 4.0, digitalization, all together as part of an ecosystem to support the small and medium enterprises in really becoming global players. The third area that I believe there is a huge possibility for collaboration is the area of smart infrastructure. And the earlier speaker spoke about that as well, smart energy and smart infrastructure. There is no doubt that our infrastructure here in the country needs to step up if we want to be global players, particularly in manufacturing and in digitalization. We will need core infrastructure for that. And particularly with the shift that the country is making towards going from conventional energy towards renewable energy, this is something that Germany has already done and indeed moving to the next level with. And I think this is something that, again, there can be a huge amount of lessons learned and collaborations that can take place in microgrids, in storage, in smart grids, etc., where we can look at how we can really strengthen our infrastructure on the energy side, on the mobility side, And indeed, now it has become painfully obvious also on the healthcare side. And I think in these difficult times, in spite of the large numbers that Germany has registered, the fatality, the mortality rate is really extremely low. And because that is primarily because of the very robust healthcare system that has been built up. And I think this is something, again, where we can really work together, and Indian healthcare organizations together with German healthcare organizations can really build a robust system, healthcare infrastructure here in the country. That's it from my side, Bernhard.
Okay, Sunil, thanks a lot. Now we're already in the question and answer session. And I have a few questions here in the chat box. And one question is on how MSMEs can use digitalization now that we're saying it's a chance to move to digital power, but how can SMEs use that? And maybe Caroline King, you can say with your offers and experience from SAP, also with Mittelstand, how can you support the small and medium-sized companies here in terms of digitalization?
Yeah, clearly there are a raft of solutions and opportunities that the new technologies via cloud platforms make possible, also for SMEs. In the past, you know, we heard often the complaint that in particular SAP solutions were prohibitively costly and difficult to install, and a long-term commitment. The whole industry has changed, and also for SAP. So from front end to back end, there are a number of solutions that we could discuss. In particular, with regard to COVID and crisis management, I'm happy to forward the documents that we put together for all of our discussion partners, also for India, and pass those on. Maybe they can be distributed if they have not already been so via NASCOM or CII into the sector. I don't know, Klaas, if there's something particular from the lab side that we are offering or doing right now in India for our customers or for our network in addition.
Yeah, we are currently checking to connect our customers in India with the Ariba network, with the network of global suppliers, specifically to help wherever the supply chain is interrupting with a global network connected suppliers. This is now in the process. At a certain point of time, we can also give it to this audience that the exact date, how can you attach this, and it's free of cost now due to the crisis, and it's an offer.
Yeah, that I will send right now to the participants.
Okay, maybe I can add something from my side, a practical example of how SAP and another German conglomerate, Metro Cash and Carry, got involved in supporting Indian SMEs, and that is for the Kirana stores. SAP has developed a special software for the Kirana stores to basically manage their stocking and supply chain system, so that they can, once they see the requirement to order new goods, they are tied up directly with Metro, for instance, so that they can order and Metro can deliver. And this is just one of the examples how SAP really cared for the typical Indian SMSE. So now I would like to ask Sunil, because that question also came up, how can Siemens support the MSMEs as suppliers? Because many of the suppliers, not only from Siemens, but also from others, other multinationals, are from the medium-sized sectors. And therefore the question is how Siemens is planning to support the medium-sized, small and medium-sized enterprises in their endeavor to come out of the crisis.
Well, we're already doing a couple of things. I think there are, as I mentioned, one of the critical issues is related to payments and liquidity of our suppliers. we have over 4,000 small and medium enterprises as our supply chain, and they are all being paid on time, irrespective of what the situations are. So we are not triggering any contractual issues over there to make sure that we pay our suppliers on time if they have the material ready. The other area that we are working very closely now with the suppliers, with some of our suppliers, is really, we know that the day after COVID is going to be a very challenging time, and it is going to put even more pressure on suppliers to be competitive. And this is where we are now starting discussions with a lot of our suppliers, and we have a major round of discussions on technology and how, as I mentioned earlier, how concretely digitalization can help them in becoming much more competitive for themselves as well as for us. We are holding webinars for all our supply chain as well as our customers on concrete issues over there. But more importantly, I think it is a question now of being able to go in and work together with our suppliers to address issues. How can we help you become more competitive? And how can we actually support you in using digitalization to make you take you to the next level at a time which is very, very difficult.
Yeah, thank you. I now have a question for Julia from BDI, and that is whether in Germany tax concessions are under consideration. Julia, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still there. Can you repeat it? Sorry.
Yeah, there is a question whether any tax concessions are under consideration in Germany.
Actually, there are a couple of discussions at the moment. But I'm not that deeply into the tax discussions, so I would need to look it up and respond to you per email if this is fine.
Okay, there's no problem. There's no problem. Another question that came up, and I don't know whether we can really answer it, that is that generally vaccination development takes 7 to 10 years, and now governments are globally trying to fast track the approval process. Therefore, the question is, how do we ensure that long-term health is not compromised? Now, I'm not sure whether any of us is really the expert on that, but since Siemens is also in the field of medical equipment, maybe Sunil, you have some idea on that one.
No, unfortunately, on the vaccines, we do not deal with actual vaccines, but with the technology that goes to support the research in that. So I don't think I'd be qualified to talk about it.
Yeah, but I can at least answer it in this respect, that I think that when it comes to Indian research, be it from CIPLA, be it from the Serum Institute, they are all working very hard on developing vaccination, and they've shown in the past that they can be very successful. There are German companies doing a lot of research on it, French companies, and I'm pretty sure that there will be a boost in the vaccination scenario, and I cannot imagine that anyone will compromise. I understand now that President Trump wants malaria medicine to fight the coronavirus. Not sure whether that works, but at least maybe we find some solution there, and that has to be seen. Another question that came from the round, and this is whether there will be a brain drain during the COVID crisis. Does anybody see a brain drain? Basically meaning that more, for instance, Indians will grow abroad, if I understand that right. At the moment, nobody can go. So from that angle, I cannot really see a brain drain going on there. That will probably take a while. I don't know whether, Klaas, you want to take that question.
Yeah, but what we certainly observe is a reverse brain drain. That means people tend to go back to their home countries on a global scale, wherever this is still possible. I know that India is, of course, completely locked, but many other countries, we see that most countries only allow their own citizens to come back and do not allow foreigners to go in and out. This is at least true for the most largest economic regions in the world, EU, United States, China. And I said India is, of course, now locked both ways. So what we certainly observe is a reduction of expatriates across industries, also in the different business circles around the globe. I get this feedback. And in that way, it is a brain drain, but maybe different from previously understood brain drain. And we hope that if these measures get lifted soon, that at least for the summer, where there's the usual exchange of students, faculty, business professionals who go for a longer time abroad, that this will not be completely disrupted. Yeah, but yes, indeed, we see a significant amount of people lesser now living in host countries than this was happening before.
Yeah, thank you very much. Then we have another question, and that is whether being an external shock, the model is considering a V-shaped recovery or rather a long phase like a U or an L shape. And maybe Julia and Ms. Ganguly, you can take that question.
Yes, thank you. Actually, this is the main discussion of our research institutes at the moment. So more and more, well, the optimistic scenario is a V-shaped scenario in Germany, but the more and more getting realistic scenario is the U from Bonn. So we still hope that this won't get true. But yeah, all the calculations of our research institutes are based on these two scenarios at the moment.
And Ms. Ganguly, how do you see the situation on behalf of CII? I think you have to unmute. Can't hear you. She seems to be struggling. Anybody there from CII who wants to take that question? Maybe Sunil, you take it because you're part of CII also.
Yeah, maybe I try.
U-shape, L-shape, yes.
Well, I think we're not looking at any shape right now. Particularly from an India perspective, the next week or so will be critical to see how the numbers grow or decline, as the case may be. And depending on that, we will probably get an indication how long this is going to go on for. What is clear is that there will be a phase-wise lockdown. Whether that phase-wise lockdown will start a week later or 2 weeks later, or as planned 15th of April, is not yet clear. And I've just come out of another call, CII, with a minister who has said more or less the same thing. So I think we will just have to wait and see when the lockdown slowly starts ramping down. And then based on that, we will have to see how long it takes to ramp up manufacturing and in which parts of industry and so on. CII has made recommendations to the government on how the ramp up phase of the economy should take place and which measures need to be taken. So we will just have to see and wait for the announcements in the next couple of days. A lot of the turnaround in the economy will depend on A, the stimulus package, B, when the lockdown starts getting ramped down, and C, how the ramp up recommendations that CII and other industry organizations have given are actually implemented.
There's a follow-up question, Sunil, and that's what kind of role CII is playing towards the government of India for taking some of the measures, especially for medium-sized companies. Since you're saying you spoke to a minister, is there anything more concrete already?
Oh, absolutely. There's been a host of discussions, and the CII has set up a COVID task force at a national level, and that is broken down at a regional level as well. Every region is then broken down to a state and zone levels. A lot of issues have come up in terms of difficulties in doing business, in terms of maybe inconsistencies in regulations. CII has taken up all these issues with state governments, in some cases municipalities, has met a lot of positive response over there. A lot of these issues have been resolved. CII is then going back to its members and saying, this is what you asked for, so much has been implemented, and so much is under discussion or cannot be implemented. So this is kind of a bottom-up approach that CII is doing across the country, and is in turn, we are all very closely linked in to the state governments and the central government. The National Council of the CII is talking on a regular basis to the central government. Members of the CII, like Dr. Trehan and so on, are part of the empowered committee that are deciding on healthcare and what the decisions should be on the lockdown, for example, and gearing up India's healthcare infrastructure at this point in time. But there have been many concerns about logistics, about opening up IT for some segments, etc., etc. And CII is in very close touch with the small and medium enterprises almost on a weekly basis, and feeding that back and forth to government and back to the small and medium enterprises.
Okay, Sunil, that sounds great. The time is coming to an end. This is why I have to close the question session now. But maybe one last question to Sunil. So what is your best guess? We are now exactly 2 days in lockdown, and 2 weeks in lockdown, another week to go. So are we opening up next week on Wednesday back to normal, or what is your best guess?
Well, I think I'm pretty sure it will not be 100% on day one. This will probably be a ramp down over a period of time. There are two kinds of discussions. One is whether the ramp down of the lockdown happens only in hotspots, and the other is whether we delay the entire lockdown by a week or two. My guess is it'll probably be a phase-wise lockdown, depending on where the hotspots are. But we will see. That's only a guess.
Right. Yeah, okay, so we come to the end. Maybe at the end, as the moderator, because I'm supposed to now make the closing remarks, I want to leave some food for thought for our participants, especially also since they dialed in from Germany and from China. If we look at the scenario in China, then in China we had basically a 2 months lockdown. And in India, it's just 2 weeks. So if we were to look at the Chinese model, we would be talking about end of May in India. And even now that China is reopening, it doesn't mean that everything is back to start and can go immediately. Like Lars Neumann mentioned, many of the companies, they start just with a capacity of 20%. So they have to start slow. And also there's a big fear that when they open too fast, the virus will come back. And therefore, we have to really work on scenarios also in India that we might need 2 months like in China. And then when it comes to restarting the economy, we probably need another 2 months to get it going slowly but steadily. And then, and that's the problem also in China, the global markets have broken down, and to recover them again takes a while. So from that angle, whether it is India or Germany or other parts in the world, America, we will have to be prepared for a very long and tedious scenario where we have to be extremely patient and see how we manage that crisis. We had many crises in the last 25 years, whether it was the Asia crisis, whether it was the September 11th, the dot-com bubble, whether it was the financial crisis, the Euro crisis, whether it was the revolution in the Mediterranean. So all the time, some or the other crisis. We all thought that global warming will be the mother of all crises, but now it seems to be COVID-19, which is quite bizarre. It is like a war without weapons, an earthquake without quake, a typhoon without wind, and a tsunami without water. No physical destruction as such, like in any of the other catastrophes, but still very dynamic and dangerous. So from that angle, it's a unique situation. It is as it is. Never miss a good crisis. We have to make the best out of it. And if we from BDI, CII, and Indo-German Chamber of Commerce can help our members, our friends, just a little bit to go through that crisis, then I think we've done our job. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. It was a pleasure and honor for me to moderate this session. Please stay Indo-touch, as we say, and keep on fighting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.